Hello everybody, my name is Kenny and welcome to my top 5 quality of life changes for Final Fantasy XIV. There are a lot of things that you could change in the settings to make your experience in Final Fantasy XIV a little bit more nicer, but in this video I'm just going to break it down to just the top 5 that I personally think is the best thing to change. With that being said, let's get started. Number 1, Legacy versus Standard Type. When the game first starts, you will be defaulted with Standard Type gameplay. Now what this basically means is that the game style will be character based. So it doesn't matter where your camera is faced, no matter where your position is, if your character is facing forward and you start pressing W, your character will move towards that direction. The bad thing about this setting is that if you start to press the S button to go backwards, you will start backpedaling no matter where you are. A lot of people don't like this because backpedaling is very, very slow. And a lot of people don't like to play with camera angles too much because they just like to make the camera sit still. So you can change it to Legacy type game style, where this is more revolving around your camera placement. It doesn't matter where your character is facing. If your camera is straight on, your character will start moving in that direction. This is useful for like raiding purposes, or if you're, doing a lot of dungeons, because, when you're focusing on one angle at a time, you don't have to worry about your character facing a certain direction. And especially with this game where your character by default will attack in the direction of the enemy, it makes sense, right? So Legacy type does help quite a bit. And personally, I just recently switched to Legacy type actually, and personally I like it a lot more than Standard type just because it does give you a little bit more freedom. The biggest downfall for this is that because I was so used to Standard type, when I was doing a lot of the jumping puzzles in Golden Saucer for the Make It Rain campaign, I would always fall off, mainly because I forgot that I changed the walking or like the standard setting to Legacy type, and I just kept falling backwards because I thought I was just gonna backpedal a little bit back, but then I just ended up running backwards. So it'll take some time to get used to, but in my opinion, Legacy type is better in the long run, especially if you decide to do raiding in the future. Every second counts and you have to move at a certain direction very quickly. Number 2, inventory expansion and armory gear. This is by far my favorite change in Final Fantasy XIV because of the fact that it saves up so much time and allows you to search for items a little bit more quickly. When you first start the game or when you first run the game, when you open up your inventory, it will be defaulted to 4 individual boxes. Now you have to manually click on every single slotted bag to take a look at all of your inventory total. Now it's very tedious and it does take quite some time to have to keep clicking to look at your keynotes, to look at your clusters, to look at all of your 4 bags of items. So if you actually go into the settings, you can change it
so it expands the entire thing.
So if you go to character configuration, you go to item settings, you'll see inventory settings for both retainer and inventory. Now I highly recommend changing both of them to open all and expanded. The retainer expanded just basically does the same thing but for your retainers, which I will talk about more in another video. But this allows you to basically have all of your bags open all under the same window. Now this is very useful because of the fact that you get to look at all your items immediately. It's very, very nice. It's a lot easier to navigate and it saves so much time having to click through so many boxes. And if it is too big, you can always reduce the scale of the window to make it a little bit smaller, or you can make it bigger if you have poor eyesight like I do. The next thing that I would like to talk about is the armory chest. Now by default, your settings will be set where it'll store all new items, gear wise into your armory. Now that might be good and all if it's your first job, but when you get further into the game where you have multiple jobs and each job has their own set gear, your armory chest can get very, very full very quickly, and it becomes really difficult to figure out what item you just received because it's immediately going into your armory chest. So if you unclick that setting, if you go into the character configuration, you go back into item settings and you unclick store all newly obtain items in the armory chest, this will allow all new items, whether you found them in the dungeon, whether you obtained them through an NPC, it will automatically be placed into your inventory rather than your armory chest. In my opinion, this is a lot more cleaner because that way I will know what is available and what I just gained rather than having to scavenge through my armory chest looking for the right piece or looking for the piece that I just gained. Chatbox Log Filters. Essentially, this is just changing a little bit of your chat window. If you come from World of Warcraft, or if you come from other MMORPG, you probably could agree with me that the chat window can get very, very filled very quickly. And there's a bunch of spammers when you go to cities that you don't really care about or want to see what they're talking about. So if you go into your log settings under your character configuration, you can actually change some of the cool features that will help you be able to distinguish who is talking, what is talking, or even disable certain things so you don't even see them altogether. Now, the biggest thing, in my opinion, that I like to do first is changing the color of the text. Now, whether you're talking through Free Company or talking through Say or talking through a party, the defaulted colors can be quite simple and also very difficult to distinguish. What I like to do is change some of the colors for, let's say, my Free Company to green. That way I know for a fact that when I look at my chat box and it's green, I know it's something to talk about from my Free Company. Same thing with like crossword link shells or regular link shells. You can also change the color for them. Without that, everything tends to blend with each other and it becomes very hard to distinguish who is talking and where it's coming from. Now, the next thing that I will mention is that your chat box will have 4 slots. It's defaulted by general and battle and one more, which is a miscellaneous type of thing. Now, you can actually add a new 4th box and you can change it to basically have just the important things that you want to look at. For example, if you have a bunch of friends that talk, you can just default it where it's just your friends rather than, you know, random people in the world talking to you or people whispering to you all the time. Or if you're in a very busy populated server and you're like in a group of people, then a lot of people might be screaming or yelling or shouting. And those things are kind of annoying to have to like scroll back up to see what you missed. That way you can kind of just get rid of them all together. This by far is one of my favorite things to do when I first started making a new character because it is very useful to just distinguish who is talking and what is talking. You can also add a timestamp to all of your chat windows. Personally, I like it because whenever I do sell an item in the market board, it allows me to know when and what time it does. So maybe I can replenish it or whatnot. It doesn't really matter. At least this way you can have an idea of what time it happened. Excuse me. Before we start diving into the HUD layout, there is one thing that I would like to mention about Final Fantasy XIV, and it's that it is a local setting game. Meaning, if you decide to play on a different computer or you go to your friend's house and you play on their computer, whatever the reason may be, if you don't save your settings or you don't have a backup copy of your settings, when you transfer to another PC, all of those settings will basically go back to default settings. I made this mistake because when I first started working on my UI, I didn't realize that this was a thing, and I basically lost all of my HUD layout settings, which was really, really frustrating. So in order for you to fix that, you have to go into the launcher, log into your account, and then go to the cogwheel on the top right of the launcher, and there will be a setting called backup tool. Now you want to go ahead and back up your settings here, so that way you can always bring it on a hard drive or whatever, and it'll be good to go. All right, with that being said, let's get straight into the HUD layout. HUD layout. This is, in my opinion, the most important thing because I love customization. I don't know if you do, but I do. And this allows you to change some of the UI placements and size, scaling size, and everything there is on your screen. And you can rearrange it however you like. The director, Yoshi P, really hates add-ons, and he actually doesn't allow people to do add-ons, but he's not someone who will ban you for doing it unless you openly speak out about it. Because of this feature that he doesn't really like, he allows in-game changes to allow you to basically customize it your own way. And that's where the HUD layout comes in. So if you go to your settings, click HUD layout, you are confronted with 4 different settings. In these 4 different settings, it basically allows you to have 4 different layouts. Now, this is quite useful because if you are like me and you play multiple jobs, like for example, if you play a tank, you play healers, you play DPS, sometimes you want to place things differently because some of the visuals are not as important as other jobs. Now, for example, if you play a healer, you probably want your party list to be relatively close so you can keep an eye on your parties to make sure they're not dying. But as a DPS, that doesn't really matter because I don't really care. I just want to do DPS as much as possible. So I kind of want to put my party list a little bit further away from the screen so I don't have to worry about it as much. And so these layouts allow you to just basically click through just 1 or 2 buttons to just change different layouts. That way, depending on what job you're playing, it is already defaulted or set to your liking. But yeah, under this setting, you can essentially essentially change pretty much everything. You can change the transparency of the hotkeys. You can change the scaling. You can change the orientation. If you don't want like a 12 straight row bar, you can change it to a 3x4 grid. You can change it however you like, whatever is comfortable for you and your playstyle. This is where you can have free range on what you want to do. And then last but not least, battle effects. Battle effects is pretty useful if you are later in the game. Now, when you first start the game, it's not going to affect you as much because you're probably only playing with maybe 3 to 4 different people at a time in the same area. But when you get later in the game where you have a lot of people in the same zone and there's a lot of features like AoEs, lights, flashing bombs, whatever it may be, whatever their job is, there's going to be some sort of animation that will explode or glimmer or shine, and it becomes really, really annoying, and it also eats up your CPU. It also eats up a lot of your computer RAM. And it becomes really difficult to see what's happening on the screen. As you can see right here, like when you have a lot of people playing all at once, like there's just so much happening on the screen that you can't even take a look at your own character. Like you don't even know where your character is. You can go to your settings, go to character configuration, and then go to control settings, and then go to character tab, scroll down until you see battle effects settings. Now here, what I personally like to do is keep show all on my own, show limited for party, and show none for others. What this basically does is that it'll limit only crucial effects, like maybe effects that only benefit you from parties, and then everything that you do will still be shown to yourself. Now, this doesn't affect other people. Essentially, nothing you change will affect other players. Definitely change the others to none because you don't really care to see what other people do, mainly because none of their abilities will affect you at all. Like, for example, a healer's AoE is not going to affect you if it's from a different party. It will affect you if it's in your same party. That's why you want to show limited. That way, if a healer has an AoE on the ground, you can still see it and you can still go to it, but it won't apply to you if you see other people's or other party members healing grounds or whatever. So definitely keep this on because one, it will save you some RAM, it'll save you some GPU, and two, it just looks nicer because you'll be able to at least distinguish what is happening on the screen rather than just a massive blur of lights just consistently hitting your face. All right, that wraps up today's video. Let me know what you guys think about this video. If you liked it, please don't forget to comment down below, subscribe, and give this video a thumbs up, and also share this with anybody. Oh god, I hope you enjoy this top 5 quality of life changes that I provided. But the greatest quality of life change is to subscribe to my channel where you will find new guide videos every week. So make sure to hit that bell to get notified when I upload my next video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.